All right, hopefully everyone can see the screen. Shannon, you can kick us off when ready.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're ready to go. This quarterly Livepeer project update calls being live streamed and recorded. And I'm really excited to have the Livepeer members of the Livepeer Inc. core team here for this call to talk about the latest funding round and opportunities for the community to get engaged in that. And yeah, Doug, we'll kick it over to you.
All right, thanks, Shannon. Thanks everyone for joining our quarterly community call. I will be presenting. I see my presentation, but I want anyone to chime in with questions. This can be a discussion as we go. I do have, I'm going to give a 10-minute presentation or so, and then we do have some time for Q&A right after as well. If anyone pops anything into the chat, don't hesitate to interrupt me and let me know. Cool. All right. So exciting times at Livepeer. Our mission from the beginning is to build the world's open video infrastructure, and I think we're well on our way. The agenda for today, I'm going to do a quick kickoff and describe some recent events, give an update on some of what's going on in the project, break for a little Q&A, and then I'll hand it over to updates on a few specific community relevant topics, the Confluence upgrade from Hunter. Eric will talk about kind of insight into the demand side and who's building on Livepeer, particularly in the Web3 space. Meredith can talk about marketing and some of our community marketing efforts. Shannon can give an update on the grants program. And then, yeah, hopefully we'll have plenty of time left for open discussion at the end. All right, so I think we're at a really interesting time for both Livepeer and Web3, because when I look at 2022, I think this is the year that Web3 video actually reaches the mainstream, and there will be applications that will have hundreds of thousands or millions of users that use and leverage video that are also connected to some of the really innovative, groundbreaking Web3 primitives that are kind of inspiring a lot of really cool things being built in this space, right? We started Livepeer 5 years ago now, which is kind of crazy, and we launched mainnet almost 4 years ago. And back then, there was very few kind of infrastructures and primitives and developer toolings that were enabling people to build kind of scaled mainstream consumer applications outside of the financial space, right? We'd show up to Ethereum hackathons, and developers were there to kind of hack around on emerging DeFi or learn about smart contracts or these sorts of things, but no one was yet building like decentralized social apps or streaming apps and whatnot. But now, fast forward to what we saw in 2021 and what's about to accelerate in 2022, and there are all of these use cases that are true mainstream apps that leverage blockchain technology, decentralized infrastructures, and ultimately video. And so, a few of these use cases that I think are really exciting and inspiring and interesting. We're seeing the huge rise of token gated communities and DAOs that are kind of token gating their discourse. They're token gating the content that they release and put out there. They're even doing token gated streaming for their calls or the release of their content. And we've seen a lot of interesting things built on this in recent hackathons and community-driven projects. So this is an interesting area. I think metaverse, is going to be the word of Merriam-Webster's word of 2022, with all of the kind of big tech companies making their plays for the metaverse, but all the decentralized first metaverse projects like Decentraland that are kind of out ahead of that. And video in and out of these metaverses is a big trend, and we're going to see killer use cases that reach millions of people in these virtual worlds. NFTs really came on the scene hard in the last year plus, but we're starting to see video NFTs and NFTs linked kind of within live streaming based use cases. And again, this kind of has the power to reach the mainstream. And finally, decentralized social networks have always been kind of at the core promise of what something like Ethereum could enable and offer. And again, now that we have a lot of the primitives in place for these sorts of things with the right content storage networks and streaming platforms and identity layers and whatnot, I think we'll see some breakthrough decentralized social applications that really put the kind of power and monetization back in the hands of the creators and participants in these networks who own them, as opposed to just a couple of big tech platforms. So I think it's a really exciting year that we have ahead. I think Livepeer is super, well positioned to kind of enable the success of these mainstream use cases. So, I think we have our mission of building the world's open video infrastructure, but I think we look at this point in time and, what a real priority is Livepeer should be the clear market lead in open and decentralized video streaming that enables all of these Web3 use cases that are now finally here after years of building. That's going to be a huge priority and theme for the whole project going forward. We want to capture this opportunity. I think there's, a couple big exciting things that have happened recently. The Livepeer company, which I'll talk about, Livepeer Inc., recently raised a $20 million Series B a couple months ago, and then kind of had a fast follow-on to that round from some great investors of an additional 20 million. So that's kind of $40 million of new capital that's within this company whose purpose is to accelerate adoption of the Livepeer network. So I think that's great, exciting news. We talked about this on the last quarterly call, but we had recently just joined forces with the team behind Miss Server. Really exciting. Miss Server is a great piece of video software in use across all different video use cases. And we've been working on merging the two technologies. They were already integrated. A lot of usage of the Livepeer network comes through Miss Server users, and this deployable software really feeds into kind of Web3 and decentralization, that anyone building can run their own media server that leverages the Livepeer network to handle its scalable encoding and other forms of video compute. And so, I think these two things combined are just two of the things that will help us accelerate us to capture the Web3 open video opportunity. And again, that'll be a big focus. I wanted to address something that comes up a lot around things like acquisitions and funding. People always ask, how does a project, raise money? It goes to a company. What does that mean? What's that mean for the project? What's the relationship between the project and Livepeer Inc., the company? I wrote a blog post about this that we just published this morning, and you can take a look on Livepeer's blog to kind of get into all the details. But I thought on the call it'd be worth spending a few minutes to highlight the relationship between these things. I think of the Livepeer project as aspiring to build the world's open video infrastructure, right? And part of that is it's deployed the Livepeer protocol. The protocol is this on-chain set of smart contracts that provides the incentives that try and encourage this whole global ecosystem of participants to participate in building the world's open video infrastructure and to build successful things on top of that infrastructure that can flourish as a result of its existence, right? And so that's what, all of us participate in this open, decentralized way as defined by the rules of the Livepeer protocol. And, it includes that protocol. It includes all of us as actors who run the software to form the network. It includes all the open source software under the umbrella of the project that powers video streaming on this network. And the big opportunity again is for the resulting network and all the things built on top to create an open video infrastructure that powers the future of video for the world, right? So as that project and protocol is being built and rolled out, I myself, along with my co-founder Eric, recognized, hey, actually, there's a need for some entity to come together, not just to act on this network on the supply side, but to actually focus on the goal of accelerating adoption to this Livepeer network. And we formed Livepeer Inc., the company, in order to be able to focus on that goal and pursue that mission of increasing adoption to the Livepeer network. A company is not the only vehicle that someone could use to focus on that mission, right? It could be done by a DAO, it could be done as an individual. However, rewind a few years ago when DAO tooling was kind of so early on and hardly existed. There was unclear regulatory guidance. It's unclear necessarily how to capitalize these sorts of things. We actually saw a company as maybe an imperfect vehicle, but a vehicle that lets us organize a group of people really fast, raise capital amongst an aligned set of stakeholders that believe in this mission, deploy that capital to build a great team that can focus on this mission and that can interact with kind of the world where video is today and was at the time, which was amongst the set of kind of traditional video companies that represented a lot of traffic, but needed a company to interact with that built products and services that could allow them to tap into and leverage this network. And so Livepeer Inc., the company, was formed and it has this mission of accelerating adoption on the network. It builds products and services on Livepeer. And because we do have this kind of special, unique place in the ecosystem, even though we just are one actor on this decentralized and open network amongst many, we do recognize that because the founders of the project are part of it, because we actually have capitalized this company with a set of tokens from the network and whatnot, we really have this serious responsibility of being like stewards of the Livepeer network, especially in the early days. We employ a lot of the core team and contributors. We take a leadership role in building the software and in pursuing network upgrades and governance actions and whatnot, even though all these things are theoretically accessible to anyone in the ecosystem. And so because of that kind of responsibility, we have a series of commitments that we take seriously as part of it. One is we have a set of values that have been communicated through blog posts and a founder's statement. We try and live those values and put them foremost in terms of governance priorities just for ourselves and for everyone on the network. We also have a commitment to open source. So all the software that we build is open source and accessible to anyone, and anyone can use it, fork it, change it, modify it, interact with the network however they want. So no one is locked in. And I think that's really important. And even though it is open source, we're looking forward to a lot of work this quarter and beyond to make the user journey of contributing to that open source software or using it even easier for others who want to get involved. That's a key part of decentralization. Kind of the second ideal here is that a lot of this core team, we constantly remind ourselves and keep everything in mind that we first and foremost serve the Livepeer ecosystem. Our goal, again, is to accelerate adoption of the Livepeer network. We believe that will be good for the Livepeer project and ecosystem. And we think about how we do things like with the community and with the ecosystem, as opposed to just for like a traditional closed company. I think you'll hear more about that today in terms of how we think about what it means to do marketing for the project, right? We're not just marketing Livepeer, the company, but we actually allocate resources and spend money and market with the community for the project in its entirety. Just as an example, and we want to think about that in terms of how we build product, how we test product, how we serve users at the end of the day and onboard demand. Cool. And the last thing just to highlight here is that people might suspect there's misalignment, like, oh, is the company focused on its own profits or is it focused on the Livepeer network? Like the best way that this alignment is created is through the Livepeer token, right? The company actually holds about 8% of the Livepeer tokens on the network. That's not a big enough portion to be in control or to swing governance votes or to truly be highly centralized, but it is a very meaningful amount of value that all of the kind of stakeholders in the company have exposure to, which means that, if the project succeeds and the token succeeds, then the company itself succeeds. And hopefully that alignment, allows everyone to see that we would certainly only take actions that are in the best interest of the network, because that's really where the kind of upsides and success of the company would derive from. So, this is a big topic, a lot of nuance. Everyone is figuring out in the kind of the Web3 space the best, entity formations and relationships and ways to make progress and do development and pursue decentralization. It's a lot of it. There's a lot of learnings. A lot of it is a grand experiment, but this is an architecture that's let a bunch of people focus and move quickly towards the success of the project, while also having the project be open, decentralized, and there's a path to decentralization over time. Cool. I see there's a few questions in the chat. I haven't read them yet, so I'll do a quick look. So there's a question about the Livepeer brand. How has the brand been protected? Is this something the community can be leading on as a whole, or is someone already on this? I'm not sure I fully understand the implications of this question about the Livepeer brand. I mean, Livepeer is an open, decentralized project. In a way, the brand is extensible and portable in a sense. It's permissionless in that, lots of people build lots of different things on Livepeer and label them as Livepeer X, Livepeer this, Livepeer that. And I think that actually, helps strengthen and decentralize the ecosystem to an extent. So no one can really control the brand or the use of the term as you will. If there's kind of different implications of this question, provide some clarification, I can dig in there. Cool. Next question from Sundara. Would you please elaborate on align with all the stakeholders through LPT? Again, I think I addressed that kind of at the end of the slide there. If you need any more details or follow-up question, let me know. Third one, would Livepeer consider open sourcing their research as well as their software, e.g. smart contract protocol research, video software research, economic research? Absolutely. I think a lot of it is done in public, is shared in channels, is shared in GitHub updates. At the same time, there's probably opportunity through project management and communications to have that be better presented and more accessible. A lot of times probably comes down to individuals who are, maybe working in isolation or a small group and pursuing a result rather than focusing on, documenting every step that they're taking along the way to experiment with something that may or may not work out. But I definitely think there's opportunity for plenty of collaboration, within and outside of the company and all these research areas. And it is something, we bias towards transparency. I think that should be open and shared along the way. Cool. Okay. So moving on, happy to come back to this in Q&A as well. Quick project update, just looking at some of the things that we look at every quarter. Network stats, delegator accounts up to 3,465. I was surprised when I looked at this that we actually increased by 552 this quarter. I'm not sure of the catalyst behind that tremendous increase, especially when Ethereum gas fees have been high. But I was excited to see that. So if anyone has any data about the source of those delegators, it would be really interesting to see. We're still at 100 active orchestrators. I think past the Confluence update, would love to think about increasing that. The barrier to entry to join the orchestrator list has moved up to something around 20 LPT, which is much higher than it was a quarter ago. So you see more people trying to join the active set. We're at 50% participation rate. That's an interesting number, as we know, because we're slightly above that number right now, which means inflation rate drops where it's been slightly below for a while. So inflation rate's been coming back up. the impact of that is, if you jump down to the current mintable LPT, that means in this round, 5,770 LPT could be minted if everyone called reward. That's up, I think, almost 20% from a quarter ago, or what would that be, like 18% from a quarter ago. So that's a meaningful increase, but we're above that 50% rate right now, so it may come back down a little bit. Minutes transcoded, you'll see we've been a little bit flat. We've been kind of hovering in this 2 million to 2.5 million range for a couple months now. I think a lot of that is due to kind of the increased focus and recognition on Web3 applications, which don't necessarily represent a huge increase in minutes today until some of them kind of catch that mainstream attention and scale. Though at the same time, I know we're going to get a go-to-market update. Especially as a result of Miss Server, there's been some additional users who are kind of in development and onboarding that may represent more minutes from the Web2 world in the interim as well. Same thing with fees. Fee volume has kind of hovered around that 9 to 12,000 range for the past few months, as mirrored by minutes streamed. Cool. And top priorities. I already talked about the number one priority, establishing Livepeer as the open and decentralized streaming infrastructure that powers the upcoming Web3 streaming explosion. Really excited that world is here, and we're super well positioned to lean into that and have some Web3 success stories. Second big update, Confluence. We'll hear more about that later. Our scaling update is going live shortly. The testnet is live, the audit contest is live, and it should be a big unlocking moment for everyone. 3, we really want to focus on demonstrating that increasing adoption of Miss Server can lead to increased Livepeer network utilization. We've been seeing and validating that along the way in the past couple of months, and looking to kind of see the results as some of those new users go live. And then the fourth one is basically making sure that we've better operationalized the pathways for all the community contribution that we're seeing across all the tracks of work within the Livepeer ecosystem. So again, when we think about marketing, how do we do that with the community? When we think about product, how do we make sure that we're doing that with and for the community? When we think about open source, how do we have the right pathways for open source contribution across both supply and demand side? And so I know Shannon's going to talk about the grants node, and doing a lot, and Hunter's going to talk about Confluence. I know in particular those two have been doing a lot of work in terms of thinking about how we build with the community as well. So yeah, I think that's my update. We'll hear more about some of the specifics from other team members. So we have Q&A. I see the chat here. Considering attack vectors, I wonder what would stop someone from using the Livepeer brand as their own. What protection exists for the community from bad actors leeching off the project's success? Good question. I don't know about inherent concrete protections. I think that there's a network effect and there's a community effect that has to do with this really strong, powerful community we have aligning around wanting the project to succeed and wanting to promote and support the things that are leading it to be successful. So if you see a bad actor, calling something Livepeer, I think that would be probably recognized and not broadly supported. And then, are there more formal legal channels that could be pursued in order to stop that? Good question. I'm not sure. I'd have to check with company lawyers, but again, I think the brand is portable and decentralized. It's meant to be front and foremost. So it's it's a little bit unclear. Cool. I see another question here. How do you view Theta and its competition to Livepeer? Yeah, I think Theta is a super ambitious, well-meaning, well-intentioned project that's also trying to be a Web3 video infrastructure. I think a couple differences are that Theta has started with and emerged from a consumer app platform, Sliver.tv, which has turned to Theta.tv. As such, they have talked a lot in the early days about kind of the creator economics and rewarding the streamers and streamer monetization mechanics, which are all super important things that need to exist at the application level, and that all the apps building on Livepeer, should also be thinking about. I think Theta's also focused a lot on the role of content delivery in their network and kind of incentivizing a CDN to exist, whereas Livepeer has started with this compute layer and transcoding and open source software around the media server and solving some of the problems around verification of work and things that can really be the kind of the basis for a truly decentralized foundational video infrastructure. So I think today, Livepeer is focused on the infrastructure layer. We want to see many applications built on top of Livepeer. We don't have a consumer app that would be competing with our users. And just a kind of true commitment to open source, commitment to the technology, and kind of a video first approach, as opposed to kind of a more creator or content first approach that we've seen within Theta, are just some of the differences. But ultimately, Livepeer and Theta and many other projects in the space are all trying to push kind of Web3 and decentralized video forward. And I think there'll be areas where we look similar, and there'll be areas where we look complementary, and could even be users of one another's applications. Cool. I see a question here. Are any more CDN integrations being considered besides the last one with Filecoin, which wasn't suitable, if I recall correctly? Yes, I think there's other interesting CDN projects that have done kind of prototypes alongside of Livepeer. There's Media Network, Misan Network. I know Skynet folks have been working on increasing the performance of their network for video. I think these are all interesting and capable things to kind of layer alongside of Livepeer right now for content delivery. I think we also have internal research that we've written about kind of peer-to-peer content delivery acceleration. This is not replacing a CDN, but it's moving a lot of the traffic off of the CDN into a peer-to-peer network. And related to the question before about transparent research, I think it's, as there's actually meaningful results and progress that's worth sharing, I'd look for some updates from us on that project, which we've given updates on slowly along the way in terms of intention, but would look for some meaningful results to actually share something concrete as we achieve them. Cool. All right. So we're already over time. So I think it's probably good to hand it off to some other team members to press forward. So I'll stop my share, and Shannon, you can guide who's next.
Awesome. Thanks, Doug. Eric, I think you are up next, and let me know if you want me to share the presentation on my screen or if you want to do that on your end.
I can share. 1 second. Let me navigate to the right page, which is the Web3 demand side, I believe. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. Cool. So let me just share my screen. Hi everybody. Thanks for being on the call here. So today I want to spend a few minutes talking about the efforts that are going towards driving demand from the Web3 ecosystem. Right. This is quite new for Livepeer, and it's quite new in general. I'd say in the past 6 months. We have seen this tremendous growth in the excitement in the amount of projects, the amount of being started in the Web3 ecosystem, as well as the amount of capital that's being invested in this whole ecosystem. So as a result, Livepeer is kind of perfectly positioned to be going out and capturing this opportunity. And the product vision here is really for Livepeer to be the Web3 native, multi-chain, and decentralized video streaming infrastructure. And another way to say this is for Livepeer to be the default video streaming solution for anyone who's building a Web3 application that has a video component, right? And we've already started doing the work and identified a few interesting areas. So I want to share a little bit about that with the community. The first thing is kind of identifying some Web3 verticals, right? So we've been doing market research and talking to the builders in the space, hundreds of conversations, participating in hackathons, helping developers build applications using Livepeer. And we're seeing a few emerging trends that are really interesting. One is kind of the rise of Web3 social applications. Here, there are some examples. One is there's an application called Discover that's in kind of the ICP ecosystem, and it's kind of a Web3 take of a Reddit. We've been in conversation with them, helping them think about how to include video into their applications. But in general, we're seeing a lot of kind of Web3 take of video networks, social networks that are being built right now. Second vertical is Web3 creator tools and creator applications, right? So this is these are somewhat similar to social applications, with the difference that these are tools that created specifically for creators, and it's addressing a specific pain point in the Web2 ecosystem, where only the top 5–10% of creators can really make a living by being creators, and the vast majority of the creators cannot break through the noise, and they cannot. They're kind of dependent on the platform that they kind of create on, right? Like a YouTube or a Twitch. So a lot of different Web3 tools are being built right now to kind of solve those problems, so that creators can directly interact with their fans, can, for example, create their own tokens to then incentivize people to engage with their community. So, for example, the token gating type of tooling is a really good fit for tools like this. So we're building with applications in this vertical as well. The third is kind of NFT marketplaces / platforms, right? So here we, of course, see the rise of NFT in the past 6 months, and as we are seeing this rise, we're also starting to see that the kind of the media format of the NFTs are changing. Right now, there's still majority of the NFTs are kind of pictures, right? JPEG content, but we're starting to see an emerging trend where people like video artists are creating video-based NFTs, and also NFTs are being applied to all different other use cases that kind of represent different types of values. For example, one of our close collaborators, Glass.xyz, is recently launched a kind of an NFT platform that allows people to kind of mint and sell NFT back to the contract, kind of having almost like a financial instrument to determine the popularity of a video, right? So stuff like that we're seeing popping up, and we want to be the video infrastructure for all of this innovation that's being built. And finally, the metaverse, right? It's hard to read the news without reading about the metaverse these days. And there are a lot of really strong use cases for video, both for streaming video into the metaverse from the real world, and for streaming video from within the metaverse out to the real world, right? So for we're working with applications that are working in this area as well. So a little bit on our product roadmap, the things we're working on right now. We're working on a video on demand, adding video on demand support into our hosted API and into the Livepeer network itself. We've already released a kind of a command line tool that allows people to really easily transcode a video file using the Livepeer network, and we're working on kind of turning that into a hosted gateway service, so that for people who just want to use an API, they can do that as well. And one of the core interesting features around this video on demand support is to be able to output the transcoding results into decentralized storage networks. So for example, you can transcode and then also, and in the same operation, upload to IPFS or upload to Arweave, things like that. And this then can be used for example, minting an NFT, right? Using that like IPFS or Arweave hash. So this is one of our first features into kind of the Web3 native use cases. Another thing that we've been seeing a lot is token gating. So people right now are building token gating on Livepeer just through the hosted API already. We are going to be providing more native support for token gating. For example, integrating with other token gating projects, so that users within those ecosystem can easily use Livepeer to token gate whatever video they want to token gate, and then also kind of improving the security and privacy aspect of those token gating experiences. And finally, wallet support and payment integration with more layer 1 blockchains. And I think that those are areas, those are efforts that can bring Livepeer into more layer 1 ecosystems like Polygon, Tezos, Solana, things like that. And finally, we're working on a design partnership and kind of creating more structure around this. And this is an attempt to build and ship product with close partners, right? So these can be applications that are building in the Web3 space that have some users and want to add video, or they can be other blockchain ecosystems that want to bring Livepeer into their ecosystem, so that their ecosystem of developers can build Web3 native video applications. So we've kind of laid out some of the steps for how the design partnership would work. Right. The first step is we will have an exploratory conversation to scope a project, and then the second step is to kind of do the wireframing and the design to get the project scoped, and then we'll build the project together. Livepeer will commit some engineering resources, and likewise, the other party will commit some engineering resources as well, so that we'll build the project together, get it to a production ready state, and then we'll do co-marketing to launch the product together. Right. So we plan to do a few of these in Q1 to kickstart the program, and to kind of scale that out more in Q2. So if anyone in the audience think they're a great partner, or they know someone, if you know someone who you think would be a great partner for Livepeer for this program, absolutely please let us know, because we're just kind of in the early stages of getting this off the ground. So yeah, that's a little bit about Web3 demand side.
Awesome. Eric, you got a couple of questions in the chat. I think the first one you responded to. Night Note asked, any intent to build out multi-chain support, paying orchestrators in different cryptos based on the broadcasters deposits, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll want to do that for sure.
Great. And yeah, the second question for Eric, does the signal shift towards VOD, video on demand transcoding for Livepeer, and away from live streaming transcoding?
Yeah, I would say it really signifies that we are adding another really important capability into the Livepeer network, right? Which is VOD transcoding. It doesn't mean we're shifting away from live transcoding. Live transcoding will continue to be an important part, and we'll continue to work on that and improve that. So for example, some of the things that we're working on, we're working on kind of low latency live streaming to lower the latency and improve the reliability. So we'll continue to invest in those areas. And video on demand is kind of an additional area that we want to invest in to enable more kind of Web3 native use cases.
Great. And just a note on the design partnership program. Yes, Alexander from the go-to-market team at Livepeer Inc. just posted in the chat the document for the design partner program is available on the website, and we would absolutely love for the community to get involved in helping us build that, whether you see yourself as a design partner or want to help us identify them. Would love to have people engaged in that. Thanks, Alexander, for posting that link. Cool. Okay, moving on. I think Meredith, you are up next.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, let me share screen. Okay. Yes, so I am Meredith Trudiak. I'm head of marketing at Livepeer on the ecosystem side. And kind of I wanted to take this time, as really like Doug mentioned before, we really want to create these bridges between kind of the core team and the community in a lot of functional areas. So I wanted to kind of introduce myself and kind of present some potential opportunities, because right now I think it's my first time really addressing the community. So it's really just the kind of the start of how we would potentially work together. So a little bit about who I am. So I joined as head of marketing for the ecosystem team back in August. So I think I've been on board about, I guess that's about five months. So a lot of my background is in product marketing. So if you're not familiar with the role, it's very much taking products to market. I've worked a lot in the app ecosystem. I've worked on some other software platforms. So there's a lot of creating messaging and positioning, doing all of the comms and marketing. And then also like a lot of, nuanced details, like especially in technology, just making sure there's consistency around words and phrases and coming up with terms and naming things. So I have a lot of experience in all of that realm. And I kind of started at EA Mobile, so Electronic Arts, in their gaming division, kind of on mobile platforms. So I was really, started almost professionally at the start of the mobile app ecosystem. And I think that's why I'm super excited to be here on the crypto journey as everything's kind of taking off, because it was just so fun to, have this new technology and kind of speculate on how it would impact our everyday lives and really be there at the beginning of that. So I kind of see crypto and Web3 and Livepeer where we are as just kind of like this beginning, right? And there's so much opportunity and so much growth from where we are that I just find it really exciting. A lot of my background does include working at really big centralized organizations. So it's given me a lot of different experiences, but also there are a lot of, I've worked on a lot of like B2C consumer apps, like mobile apps. So in my mind, a lot of times I'm thinking about the Livepeer technology and what's the end like consumer experience, or like how is this technology going to create different apps that like we as people, right, would use in our everyday lives. So I kind of bring that perspective in a lot of how I view things. And in general, I just love technology, and especially new technologies. And I love to think about how they will impact the world. And so I've been following kind of the crypto space for a few years, and really excited to have joined this team back in August. So what is the core marketing team focused on in Q1? So first off is team growth. So of course, with the fundraise, right, I've been kind of a team of one over here. So I have expanded the number of roles on the team. So actively interviewing and hiring, making sure it's the right fit. Other areas, content, communications, PR, messaging, and brand. So all of these are top of mind. And I definitely am thinking, I think a lot in terms of audiences, because we have, developers and, app developers, people on the demand side. We have creators who are working with those developers. We have, of course, the orchestrators, and we have a lot of these different audiences. So I'm constantly thinking about, what is the message? What is important to this audience? How do we reach these audiences effectively? And, looking at kind of metrics to make sure we're effective in everything that we're doing. And then another thing that's been mentioned, right, is just increasing the demand side. And so looking at developer focused initiatives, looking at how, do these developers look at Livepeer, like, do they see the opportunity, and making sure that we get the content out there, making sure our messaging gets out there. We're building all these opportunities. So it's making sure that's being communicated to this key audience that we definitely want to, encourage to grow that side of the ecosystem. And then next, I would say events and partner marketing. So for the next year, as things are opening up, there's definitely a lot more events coming up, right? And events are opportunities for us to be present, for us to engage with other projects, meet other people in the space. And so that's definitely a huge initiative for this year. And then of course, partner marketing, just because the space is so collaborative, we're all growing Web3 together. So we want to make sure that we are, working together on, promoting different initiatives, but also having our brand side by side to kind of build the visibility of the space overall. So where do we go from here? So I wanted to kind of start this conversation between the core marketing team and the community. So what we're doing as a first step is creating a new channel in Discord called Content Marketing. So it's kind of like, this is a space where it's just for us to connect, right? And I think this is just the first step in what this relationship can look like and how we work together. So I didn't want to be like overly prescriptive. I really wanted to just start this dialogue to figure out what makes sense for how we want to work together to grow the overall ecosystem. So in this channel, things to kind of talk about or bring up, and it's kind of like an open place to share things. It's either, content needs or thoughts about audiences, if there's questions about what to name things, because I know that comes up sometimes, different content ideas. I know there are a bunch of people who contribute content or want to contribute content. So it's kind of a space for us to all kind of get together and collaborate. And the overall idea is like, this is just a starting point, and then let's continue to evolve communication and see where we want it to go from there. So this could look like anything, I saw Chris's question. So if we want to have, a chat, with a group of people interested in talking about brand and the implications, and we can have an open conversation in the next week or two, because looking at our the Livepeer brand has been top of mind for many of us internally. So I'd be happy to involve the community in that conversation so we get that kind of broader perspective. So I think, having, kind of impromptu meetings or just highlighting, hey, these are things that are important to us as a community would be great to have that visibility and to understand that so we can figure out, what kind of communication and initiatives make sense going forward. So that is a little about me, and I am excited to get to know more of you, and especially those interested in being more collaborative in the area of marketing and content.
Amazing. Thank you, Meredith. It's awesome to have you introduce yourself to the community, and really excited to create this content marketing Discord channel right after this call. Just wanted to let everyone know you won't need to wait very long for that to pop up.
Thanks, Shannon.
Awesome. We also have from the core team, Hunter, who I think we skipped over. Sorry about that, Hunter, who's going to give an update on Confluence, and maybe say a little bit, Hunter, as well about your thinking on our overall open source planning as it relates to the public network side as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me share a screen here. Cool. So first off, I wanted to give a huge thanks to the community. I think that as we've worked towards this Confluence upgrade, we wouldn't be where we are today without the help of the community. I think the design has been heavily influenced by the comments that a number of individuals have made on the forum, and as well as some conversations that have happened and in more private settings like DMs. So first off, thanks to all of you there. I think this is a wonderful example of community Inc. collaboration on research and development, and hopefully shipping of a comprehensive update. Oops, things seem to be jumping around on me here. A comprehensive update that addresses some really pressing concerns for a lot of the community. And I would also like to give a shout out to the the Livepeer Inc. core contributors that have been working on this project, because it's been a couple of months now, and we're really excited to be heading towards the finish line here. So to give you all a recap on what the Confluence upgrade is, it's going to be moving all protocol functionality to Arbitrum. The motivation behind this is really the price and speed or lack thereof on the Ethereum mainnet at the moment. And we've dedicated a couple of community calls to this, so I'm not going to go in depth on an Arbitrum or specifically the choice of Arbitrum. However, I will say that Arbitrum is, to our minds, the most mature, optimistic roll-up solution out there right now. And we have considered the possibility that in the future other solutions may reach maturity, and we factored that into the design in such that a future migration would be relatively simpler than this initial movement. So, to summarize, after launch, all work fees and inflationary awards will be distributed via Arbitrum. If people have specific questions, I think we'll have a little time after this to go through those. But first and foremost, I want to say that Confluence is this migration to Arbitrum. And so speaking specifically to when this is happening, I have some confirmed and tentative dates here. So over the course of the past week, the core code has been undergoing a security audit. And over the course of that time, it's been there's been a flood of community contributions. The partner we're working with for the audit is a group called C4, and they allow for basically a crowdsourced audit. And thus far we've been extremely impressed with the quality and the breadth of the contributions, and issues that have been pointed out. It's been really, really phenomenal, and we're excited, and we feel strongly that this has battle tested the code, and will be in a very good spot for mainnet launch. In parallel, we've been running a testnet. So we're actually going to extend the first phase of this testnet, where orchestrators are setting up their Rinkeby deployments. This is simply to give everyone a little more time and make sure that the uptake of testnet is where it should be, so that everyone is set up for success when we move to a mainnet launch. So the rest of these dates are tentative, pending the audit. We should know a little bit more in the next few days as we sort of triage the reports from the audit. We will also make the audit reports publicly available in the near future. We just need a little more time to go through some of the comments. And so we're tentatively looking at early to mid-February for this Confluence production launch. So before I wrap up here, I wanted to speak a little bit to what Confluence unlocks, because I think we've talked a lot about sort of the operational details, the why Arbitrum, the when is this happening. But I think what's the most exciting about this for me and for a lot of the individuals that I've talked to is what it enables. It sets the stage for a number of future improvements, including starting to look at how stake is distributed, and which orchestrators are receiving stake, and what the optimal distribution looks like for the network. It lets orchestrators start to play around with fee structure. And I think you're going to see some really complex behaviors become unlocked because of this. It also allows us to use new UX patterns in the Explorer that simply weren't possible with the sort of transaction information times that you have on mainnet. So this is in general just a really exciting opportunity, and I think something that is going to help build the Livepeer network into what we all know it can be. So I think Shannon wanted me to speak to some of the open source efforts as well, and what that will look like in the coming months. And I think the reality is that there is some work to be done in terms of making making the Livepeer project an accessible information environment, and somewhere where people of all stripes and all skills and all interests are confident in contributing into the protocol. And I think that you'll see some sorts of process management and updates specifically in repos. You'll see documentation improvements. You'll also see some community members being pulled into road mapping and other sorts of feedback cycles. And I think this is actually a nice time to turn it over to Shannon to talk about the grants program.
Absolutely. Thanks, Hunter. I'm conscious we have 2 minutes left. I will be pretty quick and just add that we will absolutely have another call with the community specific to the grants program as we head into this quarter and some ambitious goals for that. So with that, I'm going to jump in and share my screen. Awesome. Can everyone see this? Great. So the Livepeer Grants program is a pretty essential component of the overall Livepeer project, especially if we go back to what Doug kicked off with in explaining that Livepeer Inc. is really one of many contributors to the overarching Livepeer project. And the grants program is really designed to be a kind of public goods treasury for the Livepeer project to fund a very broad range of projects and initiatives that help grow the Livepeer ecosystem and the project overall. And that broad range of projects and initiatives can be presented by individuals, can be presented by teams. It can be technical or non-technical, and really across the supply and demand sides of the ecosystem as well. And in addition to providing a dedicated pool of funds to support those kind of public good projects, the purpose of the Livepeer Grants program is also to recognize and reward those contributors in the community by providing them with a stake in the network. And the grants program does that by offering grants in LPT Livepeer token. So that kind of just a reset on the kind of purpose of what the committee is. And I'll just jump quickly to the focus for this quarter. And I've been at Livepeer now for 3 months, and we'll be taking on and prioritizing more, just really activating the grants program as this really, again, essential mechanism for Livepeer as a decentralized, community-driven project. And if we look back at where we've been with the grants committee and where we can go, there's just a lot more to do. So the goal is to actually relaunch the grants program this quarter with a more ambitious funding commitment, really streamlining the process of how the grants program functions and really improving grants as a product, and also continuing to strengthen community engagement and involvement in the grants program. As it stands today, the grant program is very open and transparent in that all grant applicants actually submit an issue in GitHub, and the community is encouraged through that to provide feedback on applications as they're received. And so we have a really good base. The existing commitment for grants is 50,000 quarterly commitments, and we've been undershooting that a little bit. And there's really, as we've been seeing more applications come in the last couple of months, and especially as we're doing more hackathons and seeing more activity on the demand side and more projects who are building, Web3 video-based applications, seeing more demand for grants come in on that side, we really think that it's appropriate to scale the ambition of the spending targets to 100K per quarter, and then also towards streamlining the overall business process and improving the product. It's really reducing the decision time for grant applicants as well. We've taken sometimes a little bit too much time to make decisions. So we want to, in the interest of getting more grants approved this quarter, be more efficient as a team. And then also just being clear in the application requirements as well, both for open grant applications, as well as specific requests for contribution in bounty type grants. So, those are the two broad areas where we're going to be looking to allocate more funding, is both to high level open-ended grant application categories, whether it's on, Web3 demand side video applications, supply side network tooling, products, marketing and education, really providing a broad tent under which the community can be really creative in suggesting ideas and projects. And then again, as well as identifying, priorities for specific projects that the community has an opportunity to contribute to, whether that's, speccing out, integrations on the demand side for video user tooling, whether that's, Meredith on the marketing team speccing out specific, content marketing contributor opportunities, or, Hunter on the supply side speccing out really prescribed contributor opportunities for network protocol and software. And then related to that, just to also help us really execute effectively on the program, we will be hiring a program manager just to help us keep on top of the growing number of applications that we're receiving and want to be responding to. So that is that. I'm going to pull up. Oh, I didn't get any questions on that. We will have more to say. I will have more to say in terms of just the planning for the relaunch for the grants node. So please stay tuned for that. And we will have a community call specific to the launch of the Wave 1 for this year's grants program. Great. We are a little bit over time. I see the burning question about whether Hunter Plays Music has been answered. I don't see any other questions in the chat. I want to thank everyone for being on this call. This was a really exciting one to have so many people from Inc. on the call, and I hope everyone can see the commitment to really continue to open the channels and involve the community in how the Livepeer team is executing on all the opportunities ahead of us.
All right, thanks, Shannon. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you soon.